Hi guys, so to cut the back of a princess that pencil dress, what you have to do is just first of all, to determine the width you need the widest part of your body. So since it's going to be a dress, the widest part of your body is going to be your hip, right? So your hip measurement divided by 4, and then you add extra 4 inches to it. Or if you're more on the extra large side, then use extra 5 inches of seam allowance so that it will contain everything. So my hip in this pattern is 40 inches, divided by 4 is 10, and then I added extra 4 inches because this is a medium large size, so that's why 14 inches is the width you're seeing here. So after you've determined that, the next thing I'm going to do, then you're going to mark out your zip allowance. As you can see, I also marked out zip allowance from this same whole seam allowance that I have. The 4 inches is where I took out my zip allowance, so I used about 1.5 for the zip allowance. And then after that, I'm going to insert my shoulder measurement. So the shoulder I'm going to be working with is 8 inches, divided by 2 is going to be 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. After that, I came down here, marked my 1 inch of shoulder slope, and then I marked my 3 inches of neckline. After marking it, I'm now going to connect the two together 2 times, the first line, and then I'm going to mark a second one for the half an inch to join the shoulder. After that, I'm going to come down here and insert your armhole. So the armhole I'm working with is going to be, just basically use your bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. You're going to mark it. It might not be up to your chest line. It might be just above the chest line, because that first line you're seeing is my bust, my chest line, which is up to 10 inches. So it depends on you what yours is. You're going to mark it out and then divide your bust measurement by 4, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to mark that now. So after marking it, I'm going to zip allowance line. If you want, you can tuck this away so it doesn't confuse you. So I can fold this zip allowance away just so it doesn't confuse you guys. So guys, halfway through this this straight line now, you're going to find halfway through it. For me, it's about 4.5, and then you're going to just for the front panel is where you mark it, but for this back panel, all you have to do is just to connect this to this point here. So you're going to connect this here and make your armhole just like that. So you've divided the bust measurement. You're going to just connect it all the way to this to make your armhole. So then the next thing you're going to do is to divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So the nipple to nipple measurement I'm working with is 8 inches. Divided by 2 is going to be 4 inches. I'm going to add extra half an inch to it for seam allowance here. So that will be 4.5. But down here, I'm going to remove the half an inch and just mark 4 inches here. And then also mark the same 4 inches here. And then I'm also going to mark 4 inches here, and then mark that same 4 inches down here. After that, I'm going to connect this line on my under bust, my waist, and then my hip and the lower parts together. So guys, remember, this is my shoulder to my bust, which is at 10 inches, shoulder to my under bust, which is about 13 inches, shoulder to waist 17, shoulder to hip 24, shoulder to the end of the dress. So now the next thing you have to do at this point is, on this halfway that you marked now, halfway through this armhole that you marked, you can, on this straight line that you marked, what you can do is to go up by 1 inch or by 1.5 inch from here. It depends on you. So go up by 1.5 because you don't want a curve. So now all you have to do is to connect these 2 points together, and then now you're going to connect this one here to this one. So that's basically how you mark your princess dart. I'm going to just give it a slight curve here. So that's basically it for your back princess dart. All you have to do now is to go back in here, and then you're going to extend this line by 1 inch so that once you finish sewing, it will blend in. So I'm going to extend it by 1 inch. This 1 inch that I used to extend it here, I'm going to put it back down here also. So now this is going to be my new armhole, just like this. You can use a curve ruler. So this is going to be my new armhole, just like that. And then after that, you're going to go back in and insert your measurement. So now I'm going to divide again my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 9.5. Then I'm going to put back this measurement I took away from here, which is 1 inch. I've added it back, and then I'm going to add my extra 2 inches of seam allowance back here. So the same thing on my underbust measurement divided by 4. So I'm going to, underbust I'm working with is 36, divided by 4 is going to give me 9. So I'm going to just add 2 inches of seam allowance here. That's basically it. The same on my waist, divided by 4, waist measurement divided by 4 plus extra 2 inches of seam allowance. That's it. On the hip, the same thing, hip measurement divided by 4, which is going to be 10, plus extra 2 inches of zip allowance. Seam allowance. I'm going to mark it here. The same thing at the lower part here, but instead you're going to subtract 1. So my hip measurement I was working with is 40 inches, divided by 4 is 10, and then I added 2 inches of seam allowance. But down here, since it's going to be a pencil dress, that hip measurement that I have, which was 40 inches divided by 4, which is 10, I'm going to subtract 1 from it and use 9, because it's a pencil dress, you want it narrow at the end. So I'll take 1 away from it and use 9 inches here, and then I'm going to add back 2 inches of seam allowance. If you're wondering why I keep using these 2 inches of seam allowance, is because once I split this open now, you need the seam allowance like 1 inch to be able to join the 2 sides together, and then the remaining 1 inch is to be able to join the side seam. So that's why you use that 2 inches. So now all you have to do is just to join from this part here, and then you're going to join it together just like that, and then to the end. I'm going to just come down here 1 inch, because you don't want the side poking out. Come down 1 inch from the hip line before you connect it to the end of the dress, because whenever you attach your hip line directly in a sharp line to the end of the dress, it gives it like that puffy part by the hip. So that's why you come down 1 inch before you connect it. So that's basically our back panel. Then you mark your neckline. If you want to come down 2 inches for your back neckline, then that's your 2 inches back neckline. So that's basically how you cut it. So I'm going to go ahead now, split it open from here. Okay. And then I'm going to cut out my neckline this way for the back, and then cut down here. Remember, you're going to cut the back on a fold also, because it needs to have this zip allowance here. So you see it has our zip allowance here. So now all I have to do is just to cut this side out too. I'm going to still use this pattern here to make a dress directly on the fabric. So you guys should watch out for that tutorial. So now I just wanted to explain it better here, so that when I make a video when I go to sew the particular dress I want to make, it won't be confusing. So now I've cut this out. All I have to do now is just to cut from here all the way down. So that's basically the pattern for your back panel. So you see, there's no bust at the back, so there's no need to add any extra here. All you have to do is just to go back in now, put this way. Like I said, you're cutting directly on your fabric, not like me cutting on a pattern paper. And then put this way and join it, sew it down all the way. And then once you sew it down, you're going to have your back panel. Sew the front together, you have your front panel, and join it shoulder to shoulder, close up the back, and you have your dress. So that's basically how you do this here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.